Today, the Liberals have introduced the most costly and largest budget deficit in history outside of COVID. The cost of this Liberal budget will drive up the cost of food, housing, and everything else that Canadians buy. And the Prime Minister has broken every single promise he made just 7 short months ago. He promised a $62 billion deficit. He delivered nearly an $80 billion deficit, $16 billion bigger than he promised and twice the size that his predecessor left behind. He promised to lower the debt to GDP ratio. He raised it, and inflation along with it. He promised to spend less. He's spending $90 billion more, costing $5,400 per family in Canada. And that $90 billion, to the Prime Minister's heckles, is above and beyond the promised $16 billion that he says he will one day find. And if he doesn't find them, it will be over $100 billion in brand.
Mark Carney, once the golden boy of Canada's economic elite and the presumed savior of the Liberal Party's financial credibility, now stands on the edge of political and economic precipice. What was supposed to be his grand entrance, a calculated step into leadership, buoyed by confidence, intellect, and international prestige, may instead become the moment that defines his downfall. Because this budget, this colossal, eye-watering, politically suicidal budget, is not merely numbers on paper. It is a turning point. It's a kind of economic recklessness that not only shakes confidence in the government, it buries it. And for Carney, the man whose reputation was built on fiscal prudence, this may hit harder than any scandal, any controversy, any speech gone wrong. This is a storm that could destroy his political destiny before it even truly begins. Let's be clear. What the Liberals have just introduced is not a budget. It's an economic earthquake. The largest deficit in Canadian history outside of wartime spending, a staggering $80 billion hole that overshoots the Prime Minister's own promise by $16 billion. Just months ago, Justin Trudeau and his circle of advisors, with Carney quietly shaping fiscal messaging behind the scenes, vowed to restore discipline. They promised Canadians a manageable $62 billion deficit. They pledged to reduce the debt-to-GDP ratio, to curb inflation, to restore stability. Instead, they delivered chaos. The government now spends $90 billion more than it did a year ago, an amount that translates to $5,400 per Canadian family. Inflation, which they vowed to fight, has instead been fueled by their own excess. The cost of living continues to rise. Food, rent, mortgages, even basic necessities are spiraling beyond reach. Carney, who once led the Bank of Canada with a reputation for iron discipline, now finds himself tethered to a government spending spree that defies logic. For a man who built his brand on credibility, this is nothing short of disaster. His silence on this budget, his failure to intervene, to correct course, will haunt him politically, because Canadians remember who promised them stability. They remember who was supposed to bring reason back to liberal economics. And now, that very figure stands implicit in one of the most fiscally reckless moments in the nation's modern history. Let's put this in perspective. Under this budget, Canadians will pay more in interest on debt than the federal government will spend on healthcare transfers. Read that again. Every dollar collected from the GST, every single one, will be swallowed by interest payments to bankers and bondholders. Not to hospitals, not to schools, not to roads or services. The government, instead of investing in its people, is now feeding a growing monster, its own debt. And what's worse, they've chosen to burden the very people already struggling to stay afloat. Taxes on farm equipment and fertilizer, up. Carbon taxes on steel and concrete, up. Food production costs, up. Housing construction, up. In short, every measure designed to ease the pain of ordinary Canadians has been replaced with one that deepens it. The price of liberal vanity is being paid in grocery aisles and gas stations across the country. Even more chilling is the hidden cruelty behind the rhetoric. The Liberals, desperate to impress international investors and markets, have cut 40,000 public sector jobs, the backbone of Canada's essential services. These aren't faceless numbers. They are passport officers, CIA agents, OAS processors. They are the men and women who keep government machinery functioning. Behind every one of those jobs is a service Canadians depend on, and now they will wait months longer for it. Months to renew a passport, months to receive pension benefits, months to hear back on tax refunds. The Liberals promise to cap the public sector, not cut it. But once again, words have proven cheaper than action. Meanwhile, as working-class families brace for layoffs, the richest in Canada, the corporations, the financial elite, remain untouched, untaxed, unburdened. This isn't economic justice. It's class warfare in disguise. The Conservatives have called the budget costly, cruel, and catastrophic. They see it as proof that the Liberals have lost control, plunging the nation deeper into inflation and despair. Canadians can no longer afford to eat, heat, or house themselves, declared one furious MP. The NDP, while slightly more measured, have also signaled their discontent. They praise the infrastructure investments, but condemn the job cuts and lack of social vision. Behind every job is a service, one NDP member said. This budget takes away both. The Bloc Québécois were even more direct. There is nothing for Quebecers, they said bluntly. This is a red Conservative budget. Harper could have signed it himself. And the Greens? They too have turned their backs. There's no way we can vote for this budget, one Green MP admitted, lamenting the government's refusal to consult smaller parties or even negotiate. The truth is clear. Carney's Liberals stand alone. No allies, no support. Just a crumbling economic narrative and a rising tide of anger from every corner of Parliament. For Mark Carney, this is more than political embarrassment. It's existential. He was supposed to be the adult in the room, the economic mind who would bring order to Trudeau's chaotic fiscal house, the man who could one day lead the Liberals into a new era of responsible progressivism. But instead of the savior, he risked becoming the scapegoat. Carney's credibility, both domestically and internationally, now hangs by a thread. The same markets that once hailed him as a stabilizing force are watching this Liberal freefall with disbelief. Investors who once trusted his judgment are asking the question no one thought they'd ask. Has Mark Carney lost control? Canadians are being forced to choose between food and rent, between heating and savings, while their government borrows billions more to sustain illusions of growth. And if nothing changes, the consequences will be devastating. Interest rates will rise. Jobs will vanish. Investment will dry up. The very foundation of Canada's middle class, the pride of its people, will begin to crack. Mark Carney's rise was built on a single idea, that he understood the balance between ambition and caution, between growth and restraint. But today, that myth has shattered. This budget marks not just a political misstep, it's a moral failure. It exposes the arrogance of leaders who believe they can rewrite economic laws and escape the consequences. History will remember this moment as the day the Liberals lost their moral authority. And for Carney, the man who could have been Prime Minister, it may be the day his dream of leadership died. Because no matter how brilliant you are, no matter how respected you once were, when a nation's people can no longer afford to eat, to live, or to hope, no title, no legacy, no name is enough to save you. Canada is bleeding. The question now is, who will stop the bleeding, and who will be buried beneath it?